So welcome to this training session where I'm going to present how we can integrate a best practice financial model with Power BI. It's quite impressive what you can do if you have the right tools, and Power BI, it's a really powerful tool combined with the flexibility of an Excel spreadsheet. So I'm a big fan of Excel, but I think that we need to go beyond the reporting capabilities of Excel if we want to really engage our audience. So I want to welcome you in this training session where I'm going to present how we can integrate a best practice financial model with Power BI. Power BI is one of the most powerful BI tools in the market. Actually, it's the leader in the market, and it allows you to connect to multiple data sources and create impressive dashboards and reports. So as we say, one picture is like 1,000 words. So imagine if you present the same thing that you present in Excel in an Excel table, but you present it with impressive visuals. And this is also interactive. It's not something static. So your audience will get engaged, and they will love the message that you're trying to communicate, and they will buy your story. So in the next 45 minutes, I'm going to try to present why and how you can upgrade your reporting using Power BI. Quick introduction about myself. I did study banking and finance, and I'm working as portfolio managers for many years. At some point, I did switch to consulting, and for the last 15 years, I've been training and consulting companies and individuals across the world in financial modeling, risk analysis, budgeting, data analytics, and business intelligence. So here is the agenda for today. I'm going to start by presenting some key financial modeling practices that probably a lot of you are familiar with. And then I'm going to introduce Power BI and explain what are the key characteristics of the tool. And then I'm going to go and jump into real cases where I did take Excel spreadsheets and connected them to Power BI and show you the difference of presenting your data with Power BI. And if we have time at the end, there will be a short Q&A session. So our topic today is not about best practice modeling. It's about how we connect the best practice model with Power BI and improve our reporting. But still, I want to stress how important it is to create clean and simple models that are very easy to understand. Okay, so let's start with the key modeling principles. So when we have a best practice model, we need to make sure that the model is simple and transparent. And also we need to make sure that the model can accommodate multiple scenarios. So what if we have COVID and we are out of cash? What if we have an extension of COVID and the COVID does not end in spring 2021 and it's extended up until fall 2021? So the model should be ready to actually accommodate multiple scenarios. So a model that is well designed and structured will make people that they are not familiar with the model more comfortable to read and utilize the model. So if you would ask me what are the characteristics of a good model, I would say that it should take minimum time to understand what is happening. The location of the key elements, inputs, calculations, outputs should be explicit. You cannot have inputs and calculations and outputs all over the place, because it will be much harder to actually control the model and understand what is happening. And of course, as we said, the model should have the ability to run sensitivity and scenario analysis. So being a member of Beyond the Polaris, a Monaco-based fund that invests in socially sustainable companies around the world, I do review financial models quite often. And most of the models that we receive and we have to assess and perform due diligence, and actually, most of the models do not share these characteristics. And the key thing when we are talking about a company that they want to present their financials, it's how do you tell your story in an efficient manner so that you convince your clients, your creditors, your potential investors to actually trust your numbers. And that's the challenge. Do I use Excel tables and pie charts? Do I do dashboards in Excel? Do I use a BI tool? How do I communicate the message? How do I tell my story in a more efficient manner? And that's where Power BI gets into the picture. So Power BI, it's a powerful business intelligence application that allows you to connect to multiple data sources analyze your data and visualize it in a much better way. When we are using Power BI, the first step is to actually connect and prepare our data for analysis. And truly, that's one of the most powerful benefits of starting to using Power BI and the related technology. You can transform and analyze your data much better than in traditional Excel. So how many of you have heard or already using Power Query? Let's see. Let's put 1 in the chat if you have heard about it, but you don't use it. 2, if you are using it heavily. And 3, if you have heard it, but you haven't used it yet. So Power Query is part of Power BI, and it's also available in Excel. And it's one of the most powerful tools you can use as an Excel user. If you have to analyze data, that's the way to analyze your data, not with a traditional Excel. So you have to get to use Power Query. Power Query, it's a tool that if you start using it, it will give you this wow experience because of the friendliness and the power it has to analyze data. So imagine you're connecting to a data source and you start transforming and cleaning your data, and each step that you perform, it's actually stored in the memory of the tool. And the next time your data updates, you don't need to do anything with, recalculating ratios or, extending the ranges in your formulas. You just click refresh, and in seconds, your reports update. So Power Query is the tool that will allow us to connect to the data, clean and transform, and get the data ready for reporting. Okay. So let me clean my screen. Oops. Go here. And once your data is ready for reporting, then you can explore and visualize your data with Power BI. So I'm going to show you 3 cases. Okay, so the first case, it's an 8-year forecast from a startup that it has 1 year of actuals, 2020, and then they're forecasting their numbers for the next 8 years. So from the best practice perspective, the model is not the best one. It does not allow for inputs, outputs, and calculations are all over the place, but still, what I want you to see is how we can take a model that is relatively poorly designed and transform it in terms of the presentation with Power BI. So let me open the Power BI report. So here is the report. By getting the data from this spreadsheet that I just showed you in Power BI, you can see some key metrics that I highlighted, like the gross revenue, the gross profit, the total operating cost, the EBITDA, marketing expenses, the marketing expense as percentage of operating costs, the amount of wages, and of course, you see that it's interactive. And let me show you. So if I click on year 3 here, let me click on year 3 on that chart. All the numbers will update for year 3. Okay, the metrics will adjust for year 3. I go year 4, I see year 4. Or I want to see so you have the interactivity, the visualization, and the interactivity that you cannot get in Excel. So your report becomes more interactive. And here you see the similar. And in this page here, again, we have the main KPIs, the main ratios in that top section. And then we have the breakdown of operating cost by category and the cost by cost description. And you can see how we can visualize. So that was before Excel, boring table, even if we could use like some charts or from Excel, it's nothing related to what we get with Power BI. And now, and the beauty here, it's if the numbers change, okay, so if I go here, let's say in this forecast, and I say that the fiscal year will be like 1 million, and I save the report, and then I go to Power BI. So this is, let's check it again. This is for 2021. So let's see, 2021. That's the year one. So here's the year one. I've saved the report. Now I'm gonna refresh. So I go here, click refresh. And what is happening? The report is updated, reading from the data source, which is the Excel spreadsheet. And in a few seconds, what you're gonna see, it is, so keep an eye here on the net revenue. That's the number that I did change in my spreadsheet, and I made it 1 million. So again, let's give it another try. So 3 million, save the data source, go to Power BI, refresh the report, and you will see that the net revenue will go to 3 million. And all the related ratios are also updated in our report, okay? So I can slice and see the data. So if I press Control, I can get all these numbers just for specific amount of years. And if I had monthly or quarterly, I could slice my data by quarters or by months, etc., etc. Okay, and I have some other pages here, like the analysis of the wages from the cost tab, by category, by the number of by category, the number of the cost analysis. So again, that's how it looked like in Excel. Okay, not easy to actually read the data, and that's how you can, like, that's a quick sample I made so that you can see how you can visualize the numbers. Okay. Okay, let's go to the next one. So here you see a solution to a case study for the Advanced Financial Modeler certification offered by Financial Modeling Institute, where we have a cover page with a table of contents and the main model features, the key model details, the styles used in the model, and we have a separate dedicated assumptions tab, and there is a summary tab with the key information, the key outputs from the model. There is a financials tab where we have all the financial statements. Then there is a consistency in the structure and design. So, and then there are separate schedules for each core element of the business. So revenues, costs, capex, depreciation, taxes, debt, etc. Okay, and you see that these are calculation tabs, and in every tab, the structure is the same. So the forecast for 2018, it's in column M for CapEx, and it's also in column M for the operating costs. So that's a typical best practice financial model. And in order to take that model, so here are the outputs, okay? The financials, you see the financials here, income statement, cash flow statement, and balance sheet. And here we also have a summary where we can see some ratios and some key items from the financial statements, okay? And in the assumptions, there is also the ability to run scenarios. So we can change here from the drop down, see the upside scenario, and now our financials present the upside scenario and the summary as well, etc., etc. Okay, so this is a fully dynamic and flexible model. So what do I need to do in order to take that model and actually move it to Power BI? And in that case, you need to have to set up your accounts. So in order to take a best practice model with financial statements, monthly or annual or quarterly, and present it in Power BI and make it more interactive, you need to create some kind of a mapping. So you need the chart of accounts and any grouping or subgrouping you might want to have in terms of the level of detail you want to have in your report, and then identify those in a table so that you can make the connection in the report. So here, for example, I have a sample where you see we have the product revenue and the service revenue, and we have the product cost and the service and other costs that goes under the COGS. And we also have mapping for balance sheet and cash flow. And that mapping is what we are going to use in order to build our reporting. So if you have the data from a best practice model, you can create a data model in Power BI where you can connect the different elements. So the most critical one is here, the chart of accounts, the mapping that I just showed you in Excel. So if you have your data in Excel, you can connect this data to Power BI and build a data model so that then you can do your more interactive reporting. And when we talk about data model, imagine that you can get information from multiple sources. One main source, of course, is the spreadsheet with the actual financials, and then the table that I just presented in Excel with the mapping. So let me show you again the mapping here. So this is a critical thing. So apart from the financials, that's what you need, a good mapping of your chart of accounts and whatever grouping you want to have in order to build the data model, to build the interactive report in Power BI. So if I take that and my financials from the financial report, I can connect them to Power BI. So let me switch to Power BI, and I can have a data model in that format. So given the limited time, we cannot go into details of how we actually build it, but I'll show you right away how I connect the accounts in my data model, in my Power BI. So in Power BI, as we said, you can connect to multiple data sources: Excel, text, CSV, SQL Server, web pages. If you click here in the more, you can see what other options you have. So even PDFs, Oracle databases, Access database, etc., etc. In our case, we just want to connect to an Excel spreadsheet. So I click Excel, connect, and my file is here. So the tool it's connecting to the data source, and I'm getting this navigator window where it tells me the different elements of the file. So I can connect to an Excel table or to the whole tab. So let's go here and connect to the tab that says accounts. So I can click on that and then click transform. And you see, we are connected to the accounts and we see the actual data from the accounts. And once I do any cleaning, if I want to do any cleaning, then I'm ready to click close and apply and load that data to Power BI data model. So I'm going to delete it. We don't need it because we already have it. But you see, we have our data here. And then for that example, I'm using one very convenient visual, custom visual by a company called Zebra BI, where you can, if you have structured your model properly and you have the right mapping, then you have a super interactive visual representation of your financial statements. So I can see here, I can select the time period, 2017, I can select the month, and I see what is the actual amount and what was the value same period last year. And as you see, I have the different categories based on the mapping for the revenue, the product cost, and I can calculate ratios if I like. So I have a visual representation, and I can actually change that if I don't like it to another format. Here, if I click this arrow, I can change the view to something like that. If you want to have that, which is more like, you know, the typical representation, or you can go and have the more visual one. Once I click here in the balance sheet, I can see my balance sheet, and I can see also the cash flow. Okay, so in a waterfall logic. And I can see the data month to date or year to date. Here I have like the same thing, but with a new version of the visual, where you can see here it's graphical, the difference from the previous year numbers. So similar to what we just saw before. So you can see the income statement in a more graphical manner and what is the change versus the last year. So if you want to see your report on a quarter or monthly basis, you can adjust the visual and have the differences, the actuals and the differences, the variance versus last year on a quarter or a month level, and the data from a year to date and month to date. You can have the month to date, the year to date, the full year numbers. If your data has units, you can see the same thing, the breakdown of your P&L by business units. So in this data I'm using, I have 4 categories. You see apparel, audio, mobile, wearables. You can also set it up to see the trends in core groups. So like revenue trends or gross margin, if it's going up or down. If you have historicals and actuals or budget, you can compare how your data is trending versus that numbers. Also, that is very useful for many people. You want to see what was the cash at the beginning of the period and the cash at the end of the period, and what are the main and how this change actually happened. So you see the breakdown, the analysis here. So that's a very powerful setup. Compare the boring Excel presentation, okay, where you have your financials in that manner in a table. So even if you put some visuals like charts, etc., with this one, which is more interactive. So in one page, so let me close here, this and this. So in one page, I have everything. I can see different years, different months, month to date, year to date, for the P&L, for the balance sheet, for the cash flow. I can see by quarter, by month, by business unit. If there is also regional information, I can have the information in one visual and then have the map and show how this data is actually so let me duplicate that. And if I have like regional information, like I have the breakdown of the sales by country or by city, it depends, you know, what kind of data you have. I can actually, okay, let's assume that we have some information about regions. So I did put some regions here. Here's the location. So if you see at the data under the business units, I did have like that we actually, the 4 business units are attributed to different countries. So I can go here and say, that this belongs to a country, data category. And then I can go here, open the visuals, select the map, and take, let's say, the revenue, and take the location and put it here. And let's just take the product. Let's put the actual value for the actuals. I put here the group, the account group. It's revenue. So I filter my data by revenue. So you see, I have these sales in France, in Italy, Germany, and Switzerland. Okay. And if I click on the specific one, you see the actual data in this specific. So you see how this changing and how impressive it is if you have enough data. So I just add that element in my business using. The more data you have, the tool actually makes it better. So if you have enough data, look how impressive a financial statements report becomes with Power BI. Okay. So I hope you did enjoy that presentation and you got an idea of how we can use Power BI to upgrade our reporting. If you have any questions, please reach out. We do have a launch that my team will be there and myself will be around to discuss about our areas of expertise. We also organize tomorrow an event with Financial Modeling Institute in the launch about talking about financial modeling certifications and about best practices in financial modeling. So keep an eye on that in the launch area. So I want to really thank you for attending that session, and I hope you did enjoy the topic. You can visit our booth and our lounge room where we are going to talk about financial modeling certifications. And please feel free to reach out on LinkedIn or via email for any queries. Thank you. Have a great day.